Okay, run in, run in, run in. Run in, run in, run in, run in, run in. Hey guys, it's your boy Jet.
It's David.
Aiden.
Is Aiden?
Ashley.
Tiffany's
Sydney.
kind of in the video. Maybe. Not really.
Possibly. We don't know. Welcome to Comic Time, and today we're going to be doing...
Dial H for Hero issue 1. This is the Wonder Comics version. So tell us a little bit about this, because I know very little about this.
Yeah, you seem
Okay,
like
yeah.
you need to do some exciting talking points. Ian's already gone to sleep.
So, this comic was written by Sam Humphries with pencils and inks and cover by Joe Quinones. I'm not going to give you guys the synopsis that they have on their website. I've written out some notes essentially summarizing the story. As I go through this summary, feel free to pass this book around between everybody so you guys can see the visuals, see the story unfold as I talk about it. And feel free to interrupt and ask questions. The whole point of the show is that I read the book, you guys haven't, so feel free to just ask me anything, and I'll try my best to answer. So, the story starts with Miguel writing a letter to Superman, explaining that Miguel became a daredevil after his life was saved by Superman when he was a kid. He was trying to do a backflip at the swimming pool, off the diving board, and he fell and hit his head on the board and he was bleeding. But Superman picked him up and flew him to the hospital, and he's it was the greatest rush I've ever had. So he tries to jump ramps on his bike and do skateboard tricks and stuff. He just wants to feel that excitement again.
What if the mix of it was because he had a concussion, so it made it that much crazier?
Ooh, and he just can't replicate
Yeah.
it. That's true. That could be. Let's see. So Miguel has been trying to replicate it for years. His parents die, and then he ends up having to live with his uncle, who is an abusive uncle guy. And when his parents die, Superman actually does see him and goes everything will be okay. So in this letter, Miguel is everything is not okay. Everything actually just sucks. His uncle runs a mayo-themed food truck, which made me think of Aiden, because Aiden hates mayo.
Whoa.
And so
Aiden
does
hates
Miguel.
that truck.
Miguel hates mayo. Everything they sell is mayonnaise. They even have mayonnaise fries where they batter the mayonnaise and stuff.
Don't you think the dead parents gimmick is kind of played out?
A lot of superheroes do have dead parents. I feel like
They're orphans, or they just have dead parents.
they have these attachments that they've lost.
Ian's
It has to
really
be
hogging
parents.
it over there.
He's diving into the book. You'll notice that this take on Dial H for Hero kind of has some similarities to Ben 10. For example, we
Oh,
just
no, they're
established
taking
that
it
he's
easy.
in a
Huh?
truck with
They're
his
taking
uncle.
it
Well,
Instead of his grandpa, which is Ben 10's thing.
you
they're,
didn't
similar.
describe the concept for what Dial for H for Hero is.
Oh, well, we'll get into that as the story goes.
Well, maybe we could what is
What is Dial H for Hero? They change it a little bit for this Wonder
There's
Comics
a hero
iteration.
phone, right?
Yeah, well, it's not normally a phone. So let's dial back a little bit and talk about what Dial H for Hero is as a concept, and then we'll jump back into the summary. So Dial H for Hero, for those who don't know, is a series that DC Comics occasionally will do off and on. Often whenever they do it again, they try and change aspects of it. But the idea is that there's a dial that resembles a rotary phone dial. But I think the original Dial H for Hero, it's the characters are weird. It's not it's literally looks like a phone. It has weird symbols. But Robbie Reed, who's the first dial holder, he's for some reason I understand the symbols, or it's something like that.
So it's it is still a rotary phone looking thing.
It looks like a rotary phone dial, and you still dial it like a rotary
But
phone.
if you understand the symbols, you can select which hero you're gonna be.
It's not that you get to select which hero. You dial H for hero, and then in later comics they introduce shit like V for villain and stuff like that. The New 52 run of Dial H for Hero is my favorite run. But the main conceit is that there's this mysterious dial. You dial H, you get turned into a random superhero. And what that means is different depending on the iteration. Because sometimes if you get turned into a hero, it means that you took the power from someone else. There are issues where it's oh, I became the Flash, but then that means the Flash doesn't have his speed. And then in the New 52, it was a weird thing where it was a multiverse thing. and it's like, oh, when you became so and so from another universe, you took that power from that hero, and their world got destroyed, and they're mad, and they're like after you, like stuff
Makes
like that
sense.
would happen.
I was gonna say, because these kids must not be using the like phone all that much. If we're not just getting random like flash stories here and there where he just loses his power, he's like those fucking kids.
There are so many heroes because it can literally be like anybody, and often it's like a hero that you've never heard of that they made up for the story.
Is it always a kid that gets the phone?
No. In the 2000s run of Dial H for Hero, which I have not finished that run, the whole conceit of it is that it's an anthology where the dial keeps ending up in the hands of different random people, and then they try to use the dial in different ways. I really like that run. There was like an instance where they were doing an equivalent to Jackass, where it's like a guy who does stunts on film, and then he gets the dial, and he's like, I can do even crazier stunts with this.
And this is, when is this one from?
So the Wonder Comics run of Dial H for Hero is like the most recent run of Dial H for Hero.
Like post New 52?
Post New 52, I would say this is like maybe around Rebirth era. No, it says DC Universe.
And it has a Shazam movie ad on it.
Yeah.
That kind of dates it.
Is this Rebirth era? It's weird because I was like the Wonder Comics site.
It doesn't say Rebirth.
It's around the time where they were using the DC Universe in the upper hand corner. DC's gone through many iterations since the New 52. I think it was like, oh, is everything right?
Okay, scoot and I'll scoot, and then Tiffany can sit on the couch.
Uh-huh.
Cause she's hooked.
So we
I
got
think Tiffany's fine where she is.
I know.
Ashley's like, I want the girlies. Girly up.
On the couch.
So we got the New 52, and then after that there was DCU, but spelled like YOU. That was like an initiative that they had for a while. Then after that, I think we had like Rebirth, and then we had Dawn of DC, and then we have now. What is the current iteration of DC called? Anyways, they keep changing it, and as they change it, you'll have like different iterations and runs of characters and concepts. So some of the changes for this particular dial we'll be diving into more as we jump back into the story summary. And I don't want to spoil quite yet what makes this dial different. One of the things I brought up is that I feel like this is trying to be more like Ben 10 a little bit, because of the design of the guy who is the dial holder. Kind of reminds me of Ben. I know Ben, I think, is just like a white guy. This guy, Miguel, I think is supposed to be like Hispanic. But he has like a similar like dress style to him. They have him with his uncle, similar to being with like a grandpa, like some other kind of father figure, but he's not like a nice uncle, like I said, he's abusive. And we're about to be introduced to his like redhead friend, similar to how Ben has like a redhead cousin that he hangs out with. So let's dive back into the story. So his uncle Brant is like the abusive guy who runs the Mayo truck. He meets a runaway girl named Summer, who apparently is like known around the town. People are like familiar with Summer, specifically because she runs away from home all the time, and she always gets caught and ends up being like brought back home. So he runs into Summer. They become fast friends because he hates that town that he lives in with his uncle, and she hates that town. They both want to get out.
Into why she keeps running away from home.
I
You
know,
just keep
right?
going, oh, get back in there.
It's like something's probably going on.
Yeah.
I agree. Negligence on child services.
Why
It's gotta
didn't
be the redhead too. Has to be a redhead always.
when he finds the Dial H for Hero thing, why didn't he give it to her and be like, get it?
Oh,
He
you'll
didn't
see.
want.
So next up, they find the town boring. They both want to have more excitement. Miguel, when he gets off of work from working at the Mayo truck, he goes to the canyon where a group of kids have built like a ramp, and he tries to jump the ramp on his bicycle, but it's a sketchy, poorly built ramp, and he falls into the canyon. And as he's falling down into the canyon, a rotary phone just materializes out of thin air, and it talks to him. He like hears a voice come from the phone, where it's like, if you want to live, you gotta dial H. So Which, by the way, he does is like way too calmly. I'd be like fumbling as I'm trying to like catch it and falling.
Dial L for live.
He dials H, and when he does, a variety of people all over the world sense it. And there's like I think it's the number 4 appears on their forehead. It's like the number that's associated with the letter H, but it's like people we know. So you have like Robin, Snapper Carr,
What is?
Alfred, Lobo.
You gotta show me. That's Snapper?
Yeah, that's Snapper.
I was about to say.
And he
it's just-
snaps too. You're like, oh.
Why do they keep bringing this guy up?
I like Snapper
Get
Carr.
this kid out of here.
In case
Is
you didn't-
Alfred a hero?
no.
Can they turn? They can turn into him though.
So the reason why the number 4 is appearing on all these people's foreheads is because if you've ever used the dial before, and this is something they're introducing in Wonder Comics, this was not the case before. If you've ever used the dial before, when someone dials H for hero, you detect it, and it has like an addictive quality to it. When you feel it, you go, oh, I need to go find the dial. I gotta like dial in again. So he essentially has a target on his back immediately, like as soon as he dials in. So in a flash of lightning, which kind of reminds me of Shazam, the fact there's like a lightning bolt transformation, he turns into like this 90s themed superhero called Monster Truck. And the whole comic becomes like a 90s art style comic book. So the book style changes. Did you show them what the style looked like before? So that they know
So it's a
that
very 90s themed hero.
yeah.
So it goes from like that.
Impractical Jokers, too.
There is an Impractical
Joker's
Joker's
ad in the
there.
book.
And then it goes to this very 90s style character and everything.
Nice.
And the caption bubble style changes and like the dialogue changes. And they give you a little bit of backstory on Monster Truck. The older Dial H for Hero comics didn't really give you a ton of backstory when a character would transform into someone. They kind of just would. I did like in the 1980s Dial H for Hero, they had a thing where you could send in superhero ideas and then they would make him turn into the ideas that people sent in. I thought that was cool.
Nice.
And some of the ideas that didn't make it as hero forms, they would make villains, which I thought was nice.
Monster Truck he kind of looks like a mess. He looks like a really like messily designed X-Men or something.
90s characters are over designed, and a lot
Yeah,
of
that's
popular
true.
X-Men characters are 90s characters who
Uh-huh.
are over designed, like Cable. He's super over designed.
All sorts of tech gizmos just on his shoulders,
pouches
and
for
face,
days.
and
So he turns into Monster Truck, and Monster Truck is Earth's eternal champion of trucking. Every 1,000 years, the Truck Triforce, a group of immortal sentient trucks, picks the eternal champion by hitting them with themselves.
So the last time it happened, trust
they just
didn't
have a
exist
dairy
on Earth.
I know, I was thinking that. Like, if it's every 1,000 years, then, like,
This is the first time people knew what they were and went, oh, truck.
This is
maybe
just- yeah.
trucks in our world were inspired by the Truck Triforce, since they're immortal trucks, assuming they've just been around.
Somebody saw some like fighting going on and they were like, this would be great for transportation.
Somehow we invented cars first, though.
Mhm.
So Monster Truck has like super strength, it seems. So he is able to like leap up and out of the canyon and into like a car sale lot. And he just starts smashing the cars. He's just breaking cars. He's like, wow, I'm strong. I finally have that high I've been looking for from when like Superman carried me. He's like, is this what Superman feels like all the
No,
time?
that's what taking drugs feels like, son. You're addicted. He's
So-
addicted.
And then he dials H for heroin.
So then he turns back to normal, and there are people inside of like the used car building or whatever, and they're like, stop bombing us. Like, they don't know that it's like a superhero or whatever. So Miguel's like, oh, I messed up. He runs away, and like the police are like chasing after him. He's like running on foot, and he sees his uncle's Mayo food truck, and he's like, oh, I gotta hop in the truck. But when he sees who's driving it, it's Summer. So he's like, what? Summer is like, get in. Why are the police after you? And he's like, why are you driving my uncle's truck? Why did he give it to you? And she's like, are you stupid?
stole it.
Yeah, I stole it. I'm leaving town right now. And then the phone starts ringing. Miguel like still has like the phone with him, and Miguel's like, what's going on? And Summer's like, why don't you answer it? And he's like, you don't understand. And then when he picks up the phone, the voice says, I'm the operator. We talked before. The power of the phone. The Thunderbolt Club. They're willing to kill for the phone. You have to protect it.
So everybody with the 4 is in the Thunderbolt Club?
I don't know. This is the end of issue 1. I read this like years ago.
Right.
And that's how it ends.
Nice.
And who is this story by?
This is by Sam Humphries and Joe Quinones. Sam Humphries was the writer, and Joe Quinones did like literally everything else.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Nice.
So, what do you guys think? This is the portion where everyone reviews the story. So, starting with Dozetti.
Man, see, because when you were going through it, I do vaguely remember reading up to the part where he transforms into the truck man, trash man. I guess I just didn't know enough about it and the one issue to like have a strong opinion on it. I'd probably say like a 5 or 6 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of just like, I don't know what to feel about it. That's probably explains why I didn't read like the second issue when I picked this up. He doesn't turn into this guy until like the last few pages.
Yeah, it's like near the end of the book where he finally becomes Monster Truck.
Yeah, I was kind of like, there's not a lot to go off of when you read this.
That's true. I think they want to hook you at the beginning with Superman showing up and you being like, what? He has like a connection with Superman. But it does focus a lot on him like being a daredevil and hating the town. They're trying to like set the stage for the story. But I kind of wish that he had gotten hurt from some like supervillain attack or something. You could have started with a big fight and you could have had a narrator and we don't know who it is that's narrating. And then it could have been like and this is me, and he gets like caught like in the crossfire or something. I think that maybe would have got people into it a little bit more. Or maybe start with Monster Truck and him destroying the cars.
Oh, true.
And then it'd be like, you may think that's the villain.
That's me. How did I get here?
Yeah, I got in a little over my head.
How did I become the trash man?
My story starts like all great stories with Superman. And then you go, what? And then like,
It
jump
did
back.
do that. It did do that. Superman's at the beginning.
I know, but if you started with Monster Truck, and then when it's like, you're wondering how I got here, it's Superman.
That's how it actually
yeah,
started.
it's like you could have hit people with a lot of the interesting stuff at the very beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, you could have also had him like in the car with Summer at the start of the thing if you wanted to, and the whole like the phone is ringing and Summer's like pick up the phone and he could be like you don't understand, and then it's like we jump back to explain like why is it weird for him to pick up the phone.
You know what I would have liked? I would have liked, since by this point Dial H for Hero had already been around for a while. Readers coming in. Hopefully, maybe some of them already know a bit about the phone. This one could jump in with he turns into Alfred and he's like, oh, I'm not some old guy. What do I do? He's like fumbling around the house. I'm making a mess. Alfred would never do that. And then like a burglar comes in and he's like, oh, I'm just Alfred. What am I gonna do? And he's got to fight the burglar as Alfred. And then he learns he's got some military training though. I'm tapping into it.
He's like, I want a fun Alfred story. I could see him turning into Alfred and it helping him in the Mayo truck. He's like, I detest this, but I am a great cook.
I'm an adult. I can actually reach the pedals now.
Ashley.
Yeah.
What's your review for Dial H for Hero issue 1?
I'm interested in knowing more about Summer. I usually get attached to female characters, and especially redhead female characters, so I want to know more about her, but also, like Aiden said, if she keeps running away and it's like you immediately clock her as that girl who runs away all the time, I want to know, like, because they showed, I did flip through it a little bit, they showed like 3 panels side by side of her getting older and being returned like back to her home after running away, so I would like to know more about her. Like we talked about with the monster trucks, are they just trucks, or are they monster trucks?
You're talking about the Triforce of trucks?
Yeah, because if they do it every 1,000 years, have we had trucks before, or is this the first time, or does it change with the technology of
They were
the
horse-drawn carriages.
I mean,
The
maybe,
horse
yeah,
force.
like her
And you get-
horse-drawn carriages fighting, or even like really, I don't know. You could go aquatic with it. You could do like boats or something.
The wheel.
6,000 years ago,
Like-
they were sleds because they didn't have wheels yet.
Tiffany, what's your review of Dial H for Hero issue 1?
The comic seems a lot shorter than your description.
It's one issue.
It
yeah.
is
Yeah.
pretty short.
How many issues did you get? 10, 12?
It's a 6-issue miniseries.
Only 6?
And then he appears in Young Justice, which was another Wonder comic book at that time.
I thought I had more than that. More than 6.
I also agree with Dozer. It is weird because it is a lot of. It's like the last couple pages, and that's it of what you like hit on.
It's
later.
trying to set up who this kid is, I guess, and like what his life is all about. Like, and then take some time probably to establish the redhead girl. I just don't know if these kids have the most interesting lives, especially for like comic book standards. The dead parents thing is like, oh yeah, we're doing this again.
The dead parents thing does feel a little unnecessary. Maybe it's to allow him to go on this road trip and not have like parents who are like actually work. I mean, the uncle
You don't
still
need
is
to
gonna
do
be
that.
mad because you stole his
You know,
food truck or whatever.
I feel like
And his
you
employees.
miss something when you get rid of the parents, just like, out of the blue like that. Because sometimes you can do like really good like child-parent dynamics. And you miss out on that when you just, dead parents, gotta do the classic superhero comic. Superman, I'm sure a lot of people like that Superman, Martha and
John.
Kent, his
I mean, he
parents.
still has dead parents on Krypton.
Yeah,
or whatever.
yeah, but he was raised by these people. They are all intents and purposes his parents, and he gets to keep them around in a lot of continuity. So you can do good writing dynamics with that, rather than just being like, no, he's alone. He's got nobody.
I don't like how he gets the phone. The fact that it just kind of appears in midair, I think, is like lazy. They could have made it more interesting.
Or it was just at the bottom of the pit when it landed.
Why, he should be dead then. Like,
Eh,
the fact that he gets it
he could
because
have hit
he's-
it and just rolled down. Would hurt, but
Let me find where he falls. Because when he falls in the can, this is like a big ass canyon. I don't think he was gonna live through that. Like if he hits the bottom.
Yeah, he'd be fine.
Probably was he?
He was
kids
riding that
love
like
rolling downhill.
like go-kart type thing.
He
He
was
was on a
on
bicycle.
this bicycle,
Oh.
and he eats shit.
Okay, so he was on what was the part where he's on like a go-kart thing?
that was in the beginning. That was
Yeah,
just in
where
the
they're
note,
showing
like the adrenaline
he's a
rush.
daredevil.
Okay.
Yeah. But I kind of wish that the way he found the dial was under like mysterious circumstances, not because it literally comes out of thin air, just like the food truck like pulls in, parks, they're getting set up. Maybe some people could come by and go like, mail truck, that's lame, get out of our town, you're making everybody fat with the mayo stuff. And they're like throwing stuff at the truck. And they're like, yeah, you're mean too, boo. Like they could be like booing the uncle and emphasizing that the uncle's like not a really good guy. And then after the people like pelt the truck with stuff, the uncle gets mad and yells for them to leave. And then he tells Miguel like, pick all that stuff up, go get it. So then he could be out like cleaning, and then he could notice there's something like under the truck, and it's just the phone. I think it's better for it to be like a mystery. It still is for it to appear in midair, but it just feels like a Deus Ex Machina. Like, oh, he can't die, so the phone has to be there. Or
Well, they
whatever.
could have had a whole scene where his uncle was beating him or something. He's running off and goes to like a back room that's a storage. And his uncle just throws a bunch of stuff, and it could have been in there.
If
And then he
it,
turned it around and could use it.
if it was in his uncle's storage, then I would be like, is the uncle like a previous dial holder or something? Like that would have been like kind of interesting.
Well, maybe he was just interested in antique phones.
And Mayo,
In his truck.
Mayo first, always.
storage room in my food truck.
Storage Wars on History Channel.
Okay.
Also, Aiden, you haven't reviewed issue 1 of Dial H for Hero, which is available with our Amazon affiliate link in the description box below. How about the channel?
So it has 2 different writers, right?
No, Sam Humphries is the writer, and then John Quinones does all the art.
Okay. So Sam Humphries came up with the story, and then John Quinones did all the visuals.
Well, let's dial it back a little bit with Sam Humphries coming up with all the story. Wonder Comics was an imprint that was introduced when Brian Michael Bendis came to DC Comics. He's the big guy who wrote Ultimate Spider-Man. He was like a big Marvel guy. Him coming over to DC was a big deal. He took over the Superman title, and he also introduced like Wonder Comics as an imprint. I don't know how much, if any, his influence is on the book, but I feel like he maybe had some influence because it was kind of his imprint a little bit.
WonderCon?
Yeah, Wonder Comics.
But you'd still say the writing is Humphries.
Right.
The drawing
Is
is
Quinones.
Yeah. So then that being the case, who do you think's gonna win in a fight? Like it seems like Brains versus Brawn. Who's doing what?
Between Sam Humphries and John Quinones?
Yeah, like if they
So-
had to fight.
Humphreys would write Quinones out of the story.
But is it their story?
It is Humphrey's
But
story.
Quinones is the one who brings it to life.
Yeah.
It is DC's story that they commissioned Humphreys to write.
So we're getting a little out of scope, but I'll humor it. This show is heavily inspired by back issues from Comic Pop, and they like to cut out certain stuff to make into YouTube shorts. We're not cutting or editing anything. Everything's going in.
I might cut it down.
So I hope you guys enjoy all the extra content. Minor spoiler thing for the book Crossover. I'm not sure if we'll ever do that on this couch. We'll see. Crossover was an Image comic that was about characters from comic books crossing over into the real world. And in that, they talk about the power of like the writer and the artist. So the writer was seen by many as like the gods who like made the comic characters. And some comic characters, especially villains, resented the writers because it's like, you made me this way. You made me go through like all this like torture. And again, spoiler for like Crossover or whatever, one of the writers ends up getting like killed, and everyone is like, if you kill the writer, it'll kill like all their characters that they created or whatever. But that's not what happened. And they go, wait a minute, why is it that when the writer dies, the characters don't die? And they have the realization that like Tiffany said, it's the artist that really brings the character to life.
I thought it'd be like the story's still alive in all the readers' head. Like, it's bigger than the artist now.
Yes.
That's fair.
I think my logic was a lot of the time in writing comics is the artists are just doing their art based on a script written by the writer. Unless you're like Jack Kirby and Steve
Stan Lee is just barking
Stan Lee's
stuff
just
at you.
writing random junk down based on what Jack Kirby already drew.
It's like a mix. So the old Marvel method was that Stan Lee would just start saying stuff. He's like, oh, well, I think in this one, Doctor Doom is going to get turned into an elephant so that he can fight Spider-Man, because Spider-Man always fights like animal people, right? And I want Doctor Doom in the story because he's my favorite villain. So let's make a Doctor Doom story where he's like an elephant. Maybe he goes to the Savage Land and he tries to get some mammoth DNA in him to the Savage Land so he can be super strong, so he can fight the Fantastic Four. But it kind of drives him crazy, right? He's mad. So then Dr. Octopus has to reel him in. He's like, I can manipulate Dr. Doom because he's all bestial, and I'll use him as a member of my Sinister Six. So then Peter Parker, he's broke. Like, Stan Lee would just start rattling off stuff, right? And then Jack Kirby then would like draw up a comic based off of the ramblings of Stan Lee, but with no words written in it. And then afterwards, Stan Lee would write the words in, but often he would write stuff in the caption box that just is what you see in the picture.
Yeah.
Like if Dr. Doom is injecting himself with like mammoth DNA, and you see in the background a computer screen that shows like a mammoth, and you see an injector that has like a DNA strand in it, and you see Doctor Doom's arm. Stan Lee is still gonna say, Doctor Doom injects himself with the mammoth DNA, and then Doctor Doom's speech bubble is gonna be like, injecting myself with the mammoth DNA. Yeah.
What? I think there were, like with the Silver Surfer, when Jack Kirby did the Silver Surfer, Stan Lee didn't know who that was. He didn't ask him to draw that. So he writes a narration, who's this? And he's about to narrate who it is, because this is the first time I'm seeing this marvelous menace.
He should just make it more redundant, have people bust in the room. What are you doing? I'm injecting myself with DNA.
The vial of DNA breaks and forms into a giant mammoth who goes, I'm mammoth DNA, and now I'm inside you.
The other thing I was going to bring up, it seems interesting. You were talking about how you didn't like that the telephone just like appears. I think it'd be cool if it's similar to how Marvel has the what is it, the Time people, TVA.
Yeah.
The TVA. It would be cool if there was like a phone organization that's like the operators, where they're like, we send the phones out. We're like monitoring these things. It's our job to send them out. Sometimes we send them out and we mess up because people become villains or whatever. We get like in trouble with our job.
You know, I would have liked it if they introduced the Thunderbolt Club earlier, like before the final page. What if we saw people fighting for control over the phone?
And he just gets it.
Yeah,
It
it can
just
even.
like gets flung out of the fighting ring, and it just happens to land and hit him.
It could be a thing where he's trying to jump the canyon from one side. People are fighting over the phone on the other. The phone falls in the canyon, and everybody's like, how are we gonna get? And then suddenly they see a kid go over, and they're like, oh, what? And then the kid falls, and he gets the phone. Everyone's like, now he has it. But then when he leaps out the canyon, he like leaps away from them. Like he doesn't even know they're there. And they could be like, we gotta go after him.
Yeah.
I think that would have been more interesting. Add more action to the story. Already introduced that people are after the phone.
And it's very like visual. You don't have to be like, and these are who these people are. And
Stan Lee writing the book.
Yeah.
They yell, we are the Thunder.
We're here.
And what is this mysterious phone?
I also think talking about having dead parents, it's interesting because it would be interesting if they did have the kid's parents alive, and then like his dad gets the phone or something. So it's like Timmy Turner's dad with like superpowers.
Accidentally turns into Alfred.
He's like, he has to turn into Alfred at some point.
Why'd you put Alfred in there?
Because he's used the dial before.
And
Somebody's
so-
turned into him before.
So the dad turns into Alfred, and so it's just the regular dad, but he thinks they're rich and they're not rich, so he just keeps spending money.
Who's spending the money?
The Alfred dad.
As Alfred, he thinks
Yeah,
Alfred is rich.
No, he's Alfred.
Alfred is.
So
I'm
he's
about to
like,
say,
I'm
probably-
Well,
rich.
Alfred's dead, really. Not at this point. That actually is interesting. It was before Alfred died.
He was in this book.
Yeah.
R.I.P.
R.I.P. I wonder when they're going to bring him back.
When he, spends his all his finances,
Depends
ready
on
to
who
come back
wins
to
this
life.
fight.
So, in terms of whether or not I would recommend Dial H for Hero, because I haven't like given a review of it for real. I would say that if you buy it with the Amazon affiliate link in the description, it'll definitely help out the channel. But if I had to recommend a Dial H for Hero run, I would say hit up the New 52 one. There's a lot more lore. They introduced the concept of like sidekicks with like a dial, dials that are more about like traveling through like the multiverse, a dial that gives you different vehicles or whatever. So imagine you dial and you get like the Batmobile or something like that. And the idea that when you turn into heroes, it like affects your base personality, and you start to like think that you're someone other than yourself. There's a character in the New 52 run who very specifically is like, I wear a mask every time I use the dial, and I see myself as the mask so that I never lose myself as like the hero or whatever. I thought that was really cool. So yeah, read the New 52 one, but if you thought this was cool, read this too. Use the Amazon affiliate link in the description, help support the channel. Thank you guys so much for watching. This has been Comic Time with your boy Jet.
David.
Ashley.
Tiffany.
Me.
Aiden, Emperor AP. Go check out the Empire of Eternia channel.
You should.
alright.
Log out. Peace, guys. Chicken a bow.